Now here we in United States, it's I think it's midday EST, and I guess in Uganda it must be 8 p.m. Yeah. So we are coming to you live. I'm from Massachusetts, in United States of America. I guess we have different people coming from different parts of this country on the show today. Today we are exploring the current Ugandan human rights crisis. We have all seen the ongoing instances of kidnaps inspired by the state. We have seen torture of basically National Unity Platform members, supporters for your sect, to say the least. We have also seen a lot of state-engineered murders. And this is what we come to talk about today. I mean, how do we get this to a stop? How do the people of Uganda begin to enjoy their rights with no all kinds of torture, abductions, and so on? So joining us today are three distinguished guests. We have Businje Sylvia Mbabazi. Businje is a Ugandan lawyer currently based in Florida. She's practicing under Businje and Company Advocates. She has a strong attachment to international criminal justice. We also have Jacob Price. Jacob Price is the Program Officer for Africa under the Center for Civilians in Conflict. Before joining Civic, he serviced with the International Republican Institute's Africa team to implement democracy and governing programming in countries including Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and Uganda, more so on political party strengthening, citizen participation, community conflict resolution, and civil society advocacy. So he has a lot of experience when it comes to working with refugee projects, resettlement agencies, and from Georgetown College, and a Master's of Arts in International Human Rights from the University of Denver. We also have Hilary Tyler Seguia. Hilary is a Ugandan human rights activist, a graduate also of graduate student. I guess I get you right. Very concerned citizen of Uganda who holds his leaders accountable. He's commonly known for his Twitter battle with the president of Uganda and the government spokesperson of Onopondo, and I think that was Hassan Kasinji in Uganda, who had blocked him on Twitter, and we had that case in Ugandan courts, and so on and so forth. We'll be learning a lot more from the three distinguished brains right here on this show. So welcome to the show, guys, ladies, and the guys here.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and all know, like I said.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Moses. Am I speaking?
Yeah, but yeah, speak.
Okay. I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly honored to be part of this African Integration Forum. And I was send my warm greetings to all Ugandans and well wishers of our country. And, you know, we also stand in solidarity with all the families that have had their loved ones, killed by this regime of Despot Museveni, and also those who are incarcerated illegally by this regime of Museveni. So we promise you that we shall fight for justice until everyone is freed in our country.
Thank you very much for that introduction. We all know that rights violations in Uganda is depressing. I mean, there are so many reports of unlawful killings. There's been forced disappearances. That's been too much, more so from the opposition supporters. We've seen a number of examples, people who have come out to speak out, people who have signs of torture on themselves by state, including the state coming out to say that, yes, we have the people, we have arrested them, and so on. We shall be talking about all that. A lot of arbitrary detentions. We have political prisoners currently. We have people like Nubian Lee who are still in prison right now. I mean, these are political prisoners. Imagine Nubian Lee in a military detention. We have a lot of things going on, restricted access to internet. We have intimidation of journalists. We have criminalizations of things like libel. I mean, a lot of censorship. And here we want to discuss and break down this. What would you say that is happening in Uganda, gentlemen and lady? I'll start with Jacob Price. Having had
that's you listed there are just the latest things in a string of in a long-term trajectory that people have been following for many years now. I think that as emboldened and longer, perhaps less control in the system, and people are acting out and reacting and trying to re-exert themselves over something that they no longer can control like they once did.
Sorry, I hadn't muted. So over to you. Thank you very much, Price, for that background. And to you, Slivia, as a lawyer, a person who has been practicing this in Uganda, a human rights lawyer, I mean, a criminal justice lawyer. I mean, what would you say is happening in Uganda? What is it that we are seeing? I mean, it's in public view. We have people being kidnapped in public, put on gunpoint, I mean, and the whole world is watching. And there is no concern at all by the state. And people are being taken, carried to dungeons, kidnapped, tortured there, beaten. We've had stories that have been having immense people who have undergone immense torture. What are you saying? What do you see this as?
It is one of the areas actually I've been majoring in. I've worked with the ICC advocacy department in the Law Development Center. It is very, very absurd. I speak about it with a lot of passion that what is happening in Uganda is disheartening. Looking at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, if you look at the first 5 articles, of course, torture being on article number 5, all those articles actually have been offended by Uganda. One thing is when we have rights, but when we talk about torture, it is a non-derogable right. You cannot even give an excuse for torturing a person. Torture, the way it is done in Uganda, I think it is way beyond even human understanding. Because if you look at the way, if we're going to classify torture, we're going to classify the physical, the directly either arrested and put in non-gazetted prisons, those who have been beaten. There are people who have been mentally actually derailed because of what is going on in Uganda. So it is absurd that we have a situation which is done in public and nothing is being done about it. There are times when we were working with the ICC, we used to look for evidence of torture. We would shift from looking for the evidence of torture, and you're talking about massive torture. But here we have talked about, we see actual killings, actual physical hurting people, and nothing is being done about it. So the situation is really absurd, and it is not being addressed by actually the law. That is the most painful thing. We have the laws there, which are now have become useless. In Uganda, you do not even have to look for the burden of, you don't have to bother with the burden of proof, talking about torture. It is obvious. Even a child, a baby, can see what exactly is happening. People are disappearing. People are being put in ungazetted prisons. People are going through a lot. So frankly speaking, this is a very passionate thing that I think we really have to address. And I don't know when we are going to do it, but we are already out of time and we are losing it. And I don't even think I have faith in the law anymore, if the law can address it in Uganda, because all avenues are being addressed. And there is this one person who has decided to be a dictator, who I think is above the law, but it's very absurd.
Thank you very much for that observation, Sylvia. Before I bring in Hillary, I want us to watch this video. Yesterday, the National Unity Platform held prayers for those who have undergone, families of those who are undergoing torture, those who have disappeared, a big number. According to the National Unity Platform President, His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, there are over 3,000 people who have disappeared. Let's watch this video.
Since November 2020, several people, mostly youthful supporters of the National Unity Platform, have been abducted by security agents, and this has caused fear and panic among sections of the population, especially where NUP support is strong. Despite the president's assurances that the missing youths had been legally arrested and a full list of their names would be soon released, nothing has been done so far. The National Unity Platform has held prayers for their missing supporters and those who are nursing injuries allegedly inflicted by security agents. The prayers mostly called for the safety and quick release of the missing people. Some of their relatives present could not hold back their tears.
Ate talina musango sikulaba kali banange nsaba mwenna
Some of those who had been arrested and later released recounted their experiences.
Okutukwekulira abasaabaze ng'omubiseeko n'akusiiya n'okyuka bano ne bantulugunya buli kintu kyonna ne bankuba ekyenda ne kyesiba n'ensigo omusiba ogutwala ku nsigo ne guzimba era ne kaakati wendi wano ndi mbeera ntonya masiira buli ddakiika.
NUP Secretary General David Rubongoya assured the people present that the party was doing all it could to have their supporters freed. NUP President Robert Chagulanyi gave his supporters assurance
that it is not our fault, because indeed it is not our fault. We did not break any law. We did not commit any crime.
Chagulanyi critiqued religious leaders for not doing enough to condemn human rights violations by the state. The NUP president also promised that if the courts of law do not give justice to their abducted supporters, the party will turn to the people.
But like I told you, after failing to get justice in the Supreme Court, we decided to bring the petition to the court of the people. When we turn to you, the people, when we call upon you, don't waste any time to rise up and join us.
Since November 2020, several people, mostly youthful supporters of the National Unity Platform, have been abducted by security agents, and this has caused fear and panic among sections of the population, especially where NUP support is strong. Despite the president's assurances that the missing youths had been legally arrested and a full list of their names would be soon released, nothing has been done so far.
Well, thank you very much for playing us that video. I mean, very touching video. Look at the parent there who was crying because his son has disappeared. I mean, it is by the state. The state that is supposed to protect the people is the same state that is making people disappear. The same as it calls for. A lot of overwhelming evidence, Hillary. What's your take?
Well, thank you, Moses. Well, watching that video, of course, gives me goosebumps as a concerned citizen of Uganda, because currently we see the human rights temperature in our country, Uganda, so high by this brutal regime of autocrat Museveni. And we are so concerned because we cannot let business to be like this when we are losing lives each and every day. Our brothers, our sisters, our relatives, all Ugandans. And this is the regime of despot Museveni that promised, to bring peace in 1986 when we were coming to power. But what type of peace have they brought to Uganda when they are killing thousands and thousands of Ugandans? What kind of liberty has Museveni brought that he promised us in 1986? You've seen a father crying because his child was kidnapped by the state. And most of the victims of these arbitrary arrests and detentions without trial are, young people. So they are below the age of 35. And if you look at the demographics of our population, we are about 78% of us who are below the age of 35. So we are so concerned about the abuse of human rights because nobody is held accountable. And we are living in a regime whereby, so we have to call out such atrocities that are happening to innocent Ugandans. It is not a crime to support Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu as our president of the National Unity Platform. So we have to call out Despot Museveni together with all his regime, because right now the police is, militarized. So we no longer have a police that keeps law and order. It has been taken over by the military. So look at the new IGP, Paul Okech. He was heading, AMISOM in Somalia. So they brought a military major from Somalia because they call him the king, the lion. Is it the lion of Mogadishu? And he's brought to head the police. So the police the police cannot be run by, an officer because the trainings are different. So now we are seeing this Paul Okech, the new IGP, deputy IGP, soldiering in the police, which is wrong because the trainings are different. If you look at the trainings they are rising up against his military dictatorship that has, failed Ugandans for the last 36 years. And again, we call upon the government of Uganda to release these innocent civilians or all the political prisoners who are incarcerated in different, prisons, in different torture chambers immediately and unconditionally, because it is not a crime to support Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu or any opposition political party. Otherwise, multipartyism will lose meaning. When Despot Museveni says that he brought multipartyism, it is a lie. Because today we have a one-state party in disguise. The rest of the political parties are just in names, but they are not functioning. They are not allowed to perform their duties. They're not allowed to peacefully assemble and, bring alternatives to the government that has failed. So what kind of system is this? This is a banana republic. And as Ugandans who are concerned, we have to rise up and say enough is enough, this misrule of Despot Museveni. So we call upon all the international community, all the human rights bodies to hold accountable to all those individuals or the perpetrators of human rights abuses so that we bring their names to books of justice. Because if we don't do that, then it means that we are condoning whatever is happening in our country, Uganda. We cannot afford to lose any more lives. So this is happening when the world is silent. Look at today what is happening on the African continent. Where is the AU? The AU is silent. So the AU is now led by a club of dictators. So until we get rid of the small club of African remaining dictators from the African Union, we can bring reforms to this African institution. And it calls out despots like Museveni on the continent who are daily abusing our rights. Now look at the East African community. It is silent. When Ugandans are facing this. So I think we just have to speak up, and also we have to make sure that we call out any person who is abusing our rights, expose them, put them on social media platforms, bring out their names, bring out their pictures to make sure that the world knows them, and very soon we shall hold them accountable. But we stand in solidarity with our comrades who are being incarcerated. We stand in solidarity with our comrades who are also seeking for justice, because today justice is blind. So justice is not blind, but in real sense, justice has to be blind. So why are they not giving bail to our comrades? Why are they kidnapping Ugandans for simply criticizing the government's threat to democracy? It is so absurd, but we have to speak up and fight against this misrule of Despot Museveni.
Various pages, including JB Mwonge, all the pages on YouTube and Facebook. We are live on AITV Facebook page. We are live on different Twitter handles and the various social media handles on there right before you at your home places and all that. Jacob, Sylvia hit a point when she said, I mean, as a lawyer, when you hear a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, when you hear a practicing lawyer says that he has lost trust in using the law to address a matter, I mean, it brings a lot of questions. You know what I mean? It means that something is not right in a country like Uganda. I mean, you know, this is a young democracy. That's number one. Number two, it is pretending to be working under a law, a constitution, and it is not seen at all. People are being kidnapped, disappeared by the state itself. And here, lawyers saying we are losing it. It means points on why that could be, of course, because of the appointments by the president and all that. But my question to you, Jacob, is that what next then? I mean, if lawyers begin to lose hope, what next? I mean, you've been working under democratic governance programs and all that. Is really democracy still working in countries like Uganda?
That's a good question, and I would refer anybody watching. A good friend of mine published a piece in the Mail and Guardian recently about this exact question, and I completely understand the frustration that people must have when the domestic systems don't serve them in the way that they should. I mean, Hillary's point is also incredibly valid. You know, I don't know what an EAC head of state meeting is like, but I imagine that you know, I imagine you look pretty unpopular if you only received 60% of the vote. But of course, throughout the EAC, it's in wider parts of the continent too. There are these big systems that are disconnected from the population and are not serving them in the way that they should. And so I truly understand the frustration. I think the sort of the danger is considering the alternative. Like if you are frustrated by the court and by the law, what is the alternative, and is that better? And I certainly don't think that it is, as frustrating as it might be. I in some ways, I guess I was surprised by the withdrawal of the petition from the Supreme Court, but I completely understand the thinking behind it. And so in that sense, I in terms of strategy, I don't really have an answer. But what I do think I think there are a few areas though where perhaps there is room to make small change that, when all linked together, pushes in the right direction. And I can talk about this from my past professional perspective, and I want to make clear too that in the moment I'm talking about this as an independent analyst. Don't take what I say as representative of any of my employers, past or present. But I think about when you're trying to support democracy and democratic activists and human rights activists in a country where the system just does not work as it's intended to. It does not allow for popular views and opinions to be translated into political power. Trying to find the small victories. And so in what ways can the elements of the judiciary be supported to become incrementally more independent? In what ways can Parliament be incrementally more independent? I think it's hopeful that for all the ways in which these last results, you saw how, at least at the parliamentary level, many people who very nakedly went against their constituents' interests lost their seats, which means that if you are strategic about your locations and about your issues, and if you are able to communicate them effectively, there's still power there to be harnessed. and to build on. And so I think, I mean, it's difficult for me. It's difficult for me to give a comprehensive answer here because, again, it's not my country. I don't live there. I don't have family there. I as my own. But as thinking about the problem of how do you make progress in a place where it seems like you were blocked at many angles or from many sides. I think trying to identify the small victories where you can support institutions to be independent and to build themselves up is important, because I think I still feel safe concluding that if people are knowledgeable and if they if they understand the issue, more people will do the right thing than the wrong thing.
Thank you very much. I mean, I know you were kind of a little bit, trying to the fact that you do not come from that country does not, stop you from, talking about what is happening, because what is happening in Uganda is literally everywhere. It's been published. It's been, it's official. I mean, people have been kidnapped. We have examples. We have, suspects have come out fully, openly. Just in the video we just saw about the prayers at the National Unity Platform, evidence about what happened to them literally when they were taken to dungeons, they were beaten. And so at the end of the day, it breaks down the question of even whether democracy or justice in Africa, the judiciary itself, can be reliable in terms of dispensing the justice that we are talking about. That's why we talked about the Supreme Court case where the opposition NUP had to take out the case from court. After realizing that they could not get justice. The whole thing, Sylvia is coming on, she will be telling us, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that justice should be done, should be seen to be done. In this case, it is not seen to being done. Even when courts speak out on the matter, like you said, systems are not working. Still, people are being kidnapped. Even tonight, there must be somebody who's being picked up, from their home. And so for me, it brings me to a question to you, Sylvia, as a lawyer. It's a blocked system, yes. So then what do we do? Yes, people can speak out. How do we get this system to work?
Frankly speaking, it's embarrassing. If you look at the rights we have, probably we have a consideration of about 30 rights. And believe me, at this point, Uganda has violated more than 29 rights. The situation is just too obvious. It's very unfortunate that when we were drafting, actually, by the way, I was privileged to be among the team that drafted the law on torture in Uganda with Dr. Segane Musisi and the late Dr. Mongerera. And I think we concentrated mostly on what are the natures of torture. One thing maybe we did not give too much weight was the fact that the recourse, if somebody is tortured, how does somebody actually get justice after the torture? But the actual bodies, it's very unfortunate that the actual bodies that make the laws are the bodies that will not even give you protection. You cannot say that you have a fair playing ground, like democratic playing ground in Uganda, if somebody decides not to go to war and decides, I am going to contest in a multi-party politics, and I'm going to run for either president or I'm going to run for this office. And you get frustrated along the way, even in your preparation of running for that particular office, and your campaigns are frustrated, but you still go ahead and stand. Eventually there's malpractice and probably you're not satisfied with the results, and you say, I'll still do the right thing. You talked about Jacob doing the right, Jacob, you talked about doing the right thing. You say, I will not use any other means. Let me use the proper channels. Let me go to court and we address the issue. You still go to court and get frustrated in court. Look at what happened in this particular case. I think this is just too obvious. You deny people bringing in evidence. You look for all sorts of loopholes. I mean, like, this was just so obvious. How would you go to court knowing you already know the verdict? Actually, before you go to court, you can already even anticipate what the court is going to give as a verdict. So
that was so laughable.
I think that's a little bit crazy. The solution to Uganda, I think that is, in my own opinion, we have external pressures. If we have people from outside, we have people who give Uganda aid, we have people who Uganda relies on. Can we get some external help from outside? Because right now, I had my colleague talking about that we are calling upon the government to release the people in incarceration, they are the very same people who put them in that incarceration. They're the very same people who put them in that torture. Believe me, much as you think you're torturing this young boy, you're torturing the parent. Look at the parent crying. So those very persons, I think, now have become untouchable. We have the military, we have the police. We don't know actually the politics between the military and police. Either they have mistrust, or they are doing the torturing together. Believe me, the government of Uganda has been militarized.
What I can reliably say is that sometimes even...
So if you think we have lost hope even in the justice system, you guys, it's very embarrassing to lose hope in the justice system. That means we need help externally. We need some external pressures. You know what I'm talking about. If you have people funding Uganda, you can help. We had recently a video of, you saw ammunition being brought in Uganda. I don't know whether you saw that video.
Yeah.
If they are torturing people, and you talk about torture, we are in a scenario where actually we're not satisfied. Maybe most people are not satisfied with the results of the elections. And the best thing you can do is bring in ammunition. What are you trying to do? You are trying to intimidate people further more. We are running out of court because people are withdrawing the case because they don't have faith in the actual court, and you're actually bringing in, not in Uganda, but for us who have been in Uganda, who operate in Uganda, I think all faith is getting, we're at the edge. And either God can help us and do the natural thing, or else we need external support from outside to suppress. This is obvious. I cannot go back to the very government that is torturing people to tell them, please release them. And you are the one who arrested them in the first place. We don't have like a separation of powers. You dictate what happens in court. Seriously, sometimes I'm embarrassed to even call myself a Ugandan.
Thank you very much.
My solution is external help.
Okay. Thank you very much, Businje. Hillary, you just watched that. The Speaker Kadaga, the Speaker of Parliament in Uganda, I think last week, directed the Internal Affairs Minister to release a list of missing persons. This is a very serious matter. Prior, there was a statement by the Minister of Defense who came up and said that they have about 41 people. In other words, I know that if you had to say the numbers, but I know that they have more than that. They just wanted to, close down on the numbers of the people that they have kidnapped, actually. Sometimes the minister is not even flashed the information about what is going on. For the sake of, it's basically Kadaga directing Internal Affairs Minister. And then we're going to start from there.
It's now 11 days since President Yoweri Museveni ordered security agency has expressed concern over the delay on a matter of national importance.
Up to now, Madam Speaker, yet the President owned that all missing Ugandans were in the hands of security agencies. Madam Speaker.
And I am very sure the security team must be feeling ashamed. As we talk now, we have evidence. There are very many men who disappeared. Very many people were arrested.
Those people have their parents, they have their families, and they deserve a right to be reunited with their families. If they were murdered, let them bring the corpses for a decent burial.
The Minister of Defense, Adolf Mwesige, was tasked to explain the delay, but he also passed the responsibility to the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
All the security agencies have complied with the directive of the President by handing over the list of all the people who were arrested to the Uganda police, and the Minister of Internal Affairs, Madam Speaker, is in a better position to come and address the House and release this list.
The Speaker then directed the Minister.
Honourable members, the Minister of Internal Affairs is directed to come here tomorrow and present the full list of all those in custody, whether under the UPDF, whether under the police. It should be presented here tomorrow. And this is a question of violation of human rights. It takes priority over other business. Therefore, want the list tomorrow.
The Honourable Prime Minister, in order to intimidate us in front of you right now, Speaker, that we cannot demand lists from UPDF or any other institution of security when we are raising matters of people's violation of people's rights.
The Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga, has directed that the issue be quickly dealt with because it concerns the violation.
Well, that's another story they are playing from NTV. Hillary, you just had a minister intimidating members of parliament. This is the level that Uganda has reached. Before the war, a minister, by the way, for your information, that minister worked in the Amin regime. So for me, his statement that is not how government is run, for me, it's not a mistake to hear that statement. It's not a surprise because, I mean, that minister worked in the Idi Amin regime, and we know what the Idi Amin regime was. He's basically probably could be the advisor who's saying, hey, do this. We did it in the previous regime. So we actually have the same people who came in claiming that they want to get away with kidnaps, torturing and murdering, executing people, citizens, and they're now doing it. Hillary, what do you think that must be done right now?
Yes, Moses, I agree with you with the rhetoric that was used by the minister because he worked under Idi Amin Dada's regime, just like Despot Museveni. So Museveni is copying exactly what happened during the 1971 to 79 era of Idi Amin in today's Uganda. So the atrocities happening today, we just, studied about such things during our class of political education in high school. But today, whatever we studied about, we are seeing it in reality. And so absurd because the same person who say that is going to, that Amin abuse a lot of human rights and, even the regime of Milton, the same rhetoric over and over from government officials. For instance, look at Eli Tumwine, who said that the state shall kill you. When he says that the police has a right to shoot you and kill you, and nobody has condemned such rhetoric from a minister of security, it's so absurd. And again, if you hear from the government, from the National Resistance Movement Secretary General Kasule Lumumba, saying that the state shall kill your children simply because they're coming out to dissent the misrule of this regime that has failed, it speaks volumes. And we've just had recently also from the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, Ochola, who say that they are beating journalists because they are saving them from danger. And he said that he cannot even take back his statement or apologize for that. So such rhetoric is uncalled for, and we condemn it in high regards. But again, we shall not be moved by such rhetoric, because for us, what we want is justice, is liberty, is freedom for all Ugandans. So the only thing we have to do is to keep shaking the tree until we free ourselves from this captivity of this triangular dynasty of Despot Museveni. And now, when the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Kadaga Alitwala, comes out and says that he's putting pressure on the Minister of Internal Affairs to release a list of Ugandans who are illegally kidnapped and who are illegally incarcerated, it's like they're playing political syndicate, because we've had the same statements coming out from the head of state, the commander-in-chief, the head of Fountain, Despot Museveni. So if Museveni addressed the nation and he ordered his security agencies to release the list, and up to now we've not, who are so partisan that going to release that list. It's impossible. And again, we've had reports from the police denying that they don't know about those who are kidnapped. We've had also the UPDF saying that they don't know about Ugandans who are kidnapped. Now it's like a blame game. Police is blaming the military is blaming the police. Today you hear stories in the media that police is ordering the UPDF or the army to release the list. And again, the army is saying different stories. So who is fooling who in this Uganda of today and, Despot Museveni's regime? This is what we call Ugandan dystopia under this misrule of the NRM government. So as Ugandans, we just have to, keep exposing such, misfits in this government of Museveni. So Bobi Wine came out clearly and said that thousands, over 3,000 supporters of his are missing. And it is on record that these guys are missing. So we want to get sure, to make sure that we free our brothers and sisters, our comrades in the struggle, who were arrested, who were kidnapped before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections. So many have died, but the parents are saying that release our children, free them, whether they're dead or alive. We want to make sure that we have our children. So why are they treating Ugandans in such an inhumane way? So why are they reminding our parents the past regimes? Look at the preamble of our constitution, it's very clear. The preamble of our constitution of 1995 says that recalling the political instability, it says recalling the history of our country that has been characterized by politics in 86 when he was coming to power. He doesn't. So who has to remind him about what he said in 1986? Why are we going through this, yet we are concerned citizens? Why should we cry over, such a regime that has failed to provide justice to Ugandans? So as Businjo was saying that we need to get help from external forces, yes, I agree with her. But again, before we run to external forces, we have to rise up as Ugandans to make sure that we free ourselves from this captivity. So the international community procrastinates. Of course, they first use quiet diplomacy, but quiet diplomacy sometimes fails, sometimes takes years. So if you look at what happened in 1994 genocide of Rwanda, the international community delayed to intervene. So are we going to wait until the international community comes? Of course, no. So as Ugandans, we have to be at the front line of freeing ourselves from this failed, destructive regime of Museveni. As the international community comes in, they will find us somewhere. But we have to just reorganize ourselves. We have to unite, and we have to, of course, resiliently demand for change, because there is no freedom that is free. We have to, of course, sacrifice our lives. We have to sacrifice our resources. We have to sacrifice our time and free ourselves from, this dysfunctional government of Museveni. Now, you're talking about the parliament, Moses, but of course we know that the parliament is dysfunctional because it's working under, the despot Museveni. It is getting orders from above. So Museveni has used absolute power to control all institutions in our country. That's why we're saying that they are not independent. So they are working on his orders. They are working on his directives just to appease him. So because Ali Twala, Rebecca Kadaga wants to be, voted Speaker of Parliament, of course she will come up with such statements, but she is not serious about it. So if you give an ultimatum of 1 day to release the list of names, what has happened? 1 day has passed and we don't see our actions. So recently we had also from the IGP, Ochola, Lokech Paul, he said he's giving police an ultimatum of 24 hours to release the list of those who are kidnapped. Up to now, days have passed. It's now weeks. We have not seen any action being done. So where is the political will to make sure that Ugandans get liberty? Where is the political will to make sure that in cases they come with sanctions? So sanctions just go to a few individuals. And today we're seeing that government officials have stopped, taking their finances or stolen money from Uganda to offshore accounts. So now they're saying that I have no guts of going to Europe. So even if you give me travel ban sanctions, I don't intend to go to Europe. So these sanctions of the Magnitsky Sky Act, they might work, but they're going to a few individuals and they take long. So we want the external forces to go beyond, those sanctions of travel bans. We want real actions, and these actions have to go to the people who are giving orders. If it is in the military, go for the CDF, the Chief Defense Force, David Mohoz, General David Mohoz, because everything that is happening with the brutality of his army that he heads is aware of it. Go for the chief, the commander in chief. He heads his army and he knows everything that is happening. So they cannot come out and lie to public that they don't know anything that is happening. Of course, they sit in their silos, they concoct decisions, they concoct settlements, and they call for press conferences just to give rhetoric rise to Ugandans. So we are sick and tired of this nonsense. The time is up to call out these guys and rescue our country from collapsing before our eyes.
And Hillary, look, Uganda is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Right.
Article 9, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. Yeah. Article 5, no one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. Article 3, right to life, liberty, security of persons.
Yeah, then go to 19. It's talking about also freedom of expression and speech. Go to 21. It's talking about freedom of expression and assembly, but we don't have all these. And again,
this is spread well in the Constitution of the land, the 1995 Constitution. And
lost its meaning. I have a copy of the Constitution with me. I always try to read this Constitution, but this Constitution has lost its meaning. It's now just mere words on pieces of pages. So we have to, amend the Constitution after getting rid of this regime of Museveni, and we bring back meaning to this Constitution. Otherwise, the dictator has shredded this Constitution, not once, not twice, but many times. So there is no meaning in this Constitution again. So as Ugandans, we just have to rise up and fight against this regime. Now, if you look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Sinja has talked about, of course, as a member state to the United Nations, we are obliged to respect it. But Despot Museveni has violated this document. Yes, it's the most widely acceptable document and respected document in all the member states of UN. So when the government of Uganda comes out and,
Come back to you, I want to bring in Jacob. Jacob, as a graduate of international human rights and, former student of political science, you know very well that democracy works. I know that democracy has challenges, and people will tell you, of course, critics, mostly the African dictators and their prologues and their, supporters, the spokespersons of different governments, and the list is endless. They will always tell you that, hey, America, don't parade us about democracy. Hey, Britain, don't parade us about democracy. We know how we do it. In fact, when I had the president of Uganda the other day, when he met members of the European Union, was very clear to them that, hey, I know how I'm doing it. I'm not your student. I know how I'm doing it. Don't come in, even if you understand what is going on, I don't want to see you, And again, he wants them to be partners. And then he says, I am not your enemy, Definitely, that's what I'm saying. But the thing is that we know very well that democracy works. If democracy wasn't working, America wouldn't be stable for all these over 200 years. The fact that even those that do not practice democracy are kind of standing, talk about Russia and so on. But there are so many democratic challenges, including what we are talking about right now, which are definitely despotic characteristics, as the world has called them. But first, democracy has refused. It has failed in Uganda. You cannot organize a free and fair election. It is very clear right now in Uganda that you cannot organize what you can even bring close to a free and fair election, because the Electoral Commission is, appointed by the president, and most of them will bend down to him. The recent polls the poll results were concocted. They were engineered results. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that they were engineered results. There is no way a polling station can have 100 people registered in 6 months, and by the time you come to election, the same 100 people vote and someone wins 100%. There is no invalid vote, and we are talking about a rural area, So there is no invalid vote, there is no spoiled vote. Everyone voted, and the person picked 100%. That means that was a pseudo election. And then talk about the legislators, legislation in Uganda. I mean, you have a president who's breaking down counties so that they can have more people from his party become legislators. And definitely that is the lawmaking body. You definitely have him pass laws, whichever thing he wants. Even if he says, you know what, I want to make a law that stops price from coming to Uganda. It will be passed tomorrow and you will not be able to come, So that's what it means. No democracy. Legislation is failing. Now we came to the judiciary. This is where people had even the minimum faith. Last week, we had a full embarrassment by a chief justice telling a candidate who has come for justice before him that, you know what, if you don't want, go for your plan B. I think this was the biggest embarrassment in the land of Uganda, that a chief justice told a person who came to seek justice before him that go to your plan B. What is plan B?
Moses,
so does the chief justice know of plan B?
Point. Can I please intervene a little bit on that point? While we're discussing, I was looking at Hillary's t-shirt. It says a hunter. I think it should be hunter for justice. You're justice hunter. But believe me, in Uganda, you won't get a catch. If you hunt in Uganda, you won't get. Anyway, the whole thing. I happen to be actually, I hold a master's in international law and human rights. I did my master's in Coventry University in England. And one thing, when I talk about, I want to make a correction with the impression Hillary got. When I talk about looking at external factors, sometimes when you exhaust the internal factors, sometimes you may have to ask for somebody to throw a towel from the outside. I don't want, like you already said, the plan B, where I came in when Moses said, somebody said plan B. I don't want to come back and say, everything has failed, the law has failed, we have a plan B. While we are fending for ourselves, we actually need the wing from the external side to actually help Uganda. And why would we have people going to Somalia? Why would we have people going, remember there's a point where people are going to Sudan. There's a time when we actually need external forces, if a court that can come in and help. Much as we can fend for ourselves, I still insist, Hillary, we are going to fend for ourselves, but I don't know in which way. I don't want to be specific. For you can continue hunting for the justice, but you will not have a catch. But at the end of the day, we need, if you look at, we know why I'm talking about such things. If you look at-
Sylvia, that's why I want Prince. You're talking about external factors. Yeah. I want Prince, having been with all that background I gave, I want Prince to tell us, what's your take? What advice? What's your view of what should be done? I mean, to have a system that can work in a country like Uganda, where people can trust the courts, where people can trust when they go to election, they can trust the outcome of the election. What's your take?
Well, I think that's a worthy goal. I mean, I think the challenge, of course, is sort of the step-by-step, the strategy of how to get there, and to address issue. That being said, I think as the party president said in a recent podcast, there's quite a bit of room for an international community, an international constituency of people that are believers in the rule of law and believers in a, when I say democratic process, I mean a political process where the citizens of a certain state are able to design it and contribute to it in a way that best suits their needs. I think that's a very interesting component of the UDHR, is that it doesn't say that everyone has a right to a democracy that looks like steps A, B, and C. It says that everybody has a right to political participation. Now, of course, some of that is translated into political power in a way that's equitable. I mean, I take it back for a second as, you know, as an American, as that external, someone on the outside working at this externally. I live very well for a very long time, but it's people at the bottom who will be hurt first.